Welcome back to part 2 of art tile process video. So I have gone through this whole image and transferred it with the ballpoint pen. You can also use an unsharpened pencil. Ya terminé de transferir todo el cuadro. And now I'm going to go through here and just make sure with my fingers to see that all my image has been transferred. Sometimes the more you have on here, the more kind of lost you can get with your lines. So make sure you run your finger across your image and make sure that you feel the line that has been carved into the clay. Ahora estoy chequeando a ver si transferí todas las líneas. Es importante porque ya cuando quita el papel no va a poder volver a hacer las formas. So just keep in mind that once you take this piece of paper off, you're not going to be able to line it back up. Take a sneak peek and make sure that your lines are all showing through. And like I said, sometimes the paper starts to come off on your tile like this, and that's okay. I usually kind of come from a different section to see if I can get less of that paper coming off. I'm using an X-Acto knife to kind of lift carefully, and there we go. So, you know, I mean, there's definitely weak, this copy here that I printed out, but I can keep it. It'll dry out a little bit, and I can keep it so I can reference the colors. If yours falls apart, it's okay because you should have the copy on Google Docs. You can use an X-Acto knife to very carefully take these pieces of paper that have been left behind, and you really just need to be able to see your lines. So if the paper is covering up a bunch of your lines, you can carefully, without digging into your clay, try and peel it off. If it's not covering a bunch of your lines, then don't even worry about it because the paper will come off easier when it's drier. Si tiene papel y el papel cubre las líneas, entonces con mucho cuidado puede usar un cuchillo para quitar el papel. Si no le está cubriendo las líneas, no se preocupe quitar el papel. Es más fácil quitar el papel cuando el barro está más seco. So I think I'm just going to stop there. And I'm going to leave some of this paper on here until the clay dries out just a little bit more. All right. Cool. So now step 2. Step 2 is to grab your straight edge. This is a straight edge. It has no numbers on it. Go ahead and feel the edge because you want to make sure that you use the edge that doesn't have any divots in it. Some of these are old and so they have little chunks that have been taken out. Make sure your clay is released from your board. Your clay is leather hard now, so it shouldn't be sticking to the board, but just in case, you want to make sure that it's coming off the board easily. Set your straight edge on the outside of your line. Outside of your line is very important. Outside. Hold it super strong. Do you see how I spread my fingers out? I hold it very strong. Make sure that you're holding your knife like this. This finger helps put pressure on the knife when you're cutting. And slide down that straight edge. I cannot tell you how many times I've had people cut on the inside of the straight edge. They cut their border off and then they have to start all over again. So notice I am shifting the board, putting that straight edge down on the line and cutting on the outside of it. Make sure that you're shifting your board or your slab mat so that you're always cutting on the outside. you want to make sure that you do not cut off this border. Es importante usar la regla, ponerla en la línea. Esta es una regla sin números. Ese es el tamaño que queremos. Lo pone en la línea, empuja para abajo fuerte. El cuchillo se sostiene así para ponerle fuerza con este dedo y cortamos. Dele vuelta al cuadro para asegurarse que está cortando afuera de la regla. La regla, no. Si corta adentro, no lo va a tener esta parte del cuadro y esta parte es importante. All right. Sometimes this happens and you can just very carefully cut it off. I'm going to now take this, make sure it's nice and even, and I'm ready to begin darkening my lines. So I can see these lines pretty good, but they're a little light, not super light, but a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and start darkening my lines. So I'm going to take my pencil. Don't do the border. The border you leave alone. Let me see if I can get a little closer with you guys. And I'm just going to start dragging my pencil and darkening these lines. Don't carve too deep. Make sure that you're taking the clay off your pencil and you hit all your lines. Vamos a hacer las líneas otra vez un poquito más oscuras. Es importante que no le pone mucha fuerza. Nada más queremos oscurecer las líneas un poco. So again, I'm not pushing too hard. I'm just darkening these lines. So of course, if that got stuck to your tile is preventing you from seeing those lines, then you gotta pull that paper off very carefully. You shouldn't have this much paper left behind on your clay. The reason I do is because I am demonstrating on clay that is not quite leather hard yet, and that is the problem. So make sure that you wait until your clay is solidly leather hard and drag your pencil. Don't do a sketchy line. All right, we will be back.